It's lovely. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm here with Brandee Gaar, my good friend and wedding and industry veteran, expert, all the things. We're just going to give it a couple seconds for everybody to filter in. So while we're waiting, everybody pull out your cell phone and make sure that you're following us on Instagram. Follow us at Rock Paper Coin. Brandee is at Brandee Gaar. Katie will post it, but it's BrandeeGaar. Brandee, do people screw up your
Thank you,
name?
Nora. Literally all the time. Even when I spell it, I always say Gaar. I literally like pause and then say A again. And they'll type and they'll go, I can't find you. I'm like, right, because you spelled it wrong. It's
Oh
two
my
A's,
gosh.
but it's natural. Like everybody does that, right? And I've got a lot of vowels.
My last name is Shields. It's
Right.
Sheils, and it's every time it's screwed up.
Every time.
So.
Every time. But that's okay. I was listening to you. I was like, go, Nora.
Ah,
Okay.
I love it. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. If you have not met my friend Brandee Gaar, you are in for a treat today. She is a business coach and an incredible resource for wedding pros and creative business owners who really want to transform their small business from just a hobby to a thriving, successful career that not only is fun, but gives them financial freedom. So she has a lot to teach us. And she's the perfect person to walk us through the ins and outs of what it takes to build a profitable business and actually pay yourself like you are the successful CEO that you are. So, Brandee, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Yes, of course. I'm over here fiddling with technology, so forgive me for that. But I'm so excited to be here. I feel like we've been planning this forever, so I'm
For
excited to
sure.
finally be chatting with your audience. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, a new season is upon us, which
Yes.
means kind of a refresh, starting new. Wedding season is starting to slow down for most of the country. So, we're discussing different ways to shift from being super overworked, like on the verge of burnout, to like
Mm,
scaling and growing your business so you have more free time, but it's a more sustainable, profitable business. You'll probably agree with me, but I think a lot of people in the wedding industry specifically have this mentality that's like, oh, I'm so busy. I worked, 10 weekends in a row. I haven't had a day off in 6 months. And
uh-huh.
it's like a badge of honor. And it's like so frustrating to see after I did that for many, many years and it
Yes.
wears on you. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. So, like tell us all about the differences of what it's like to like build and run a business versus building
Yeah.
that like super demanding time consuming job.
Yeah. I mean, you completely hit the nail on the head, Nora, which is that, I started to realize as I was building my business, I was like, I felt like I would lie at networking events. I know that sounds terrible, but it, it was like this thing where the most stressed out person in the room was the most successful. Like that was the what everybody thought, right? And so as I started to scale my business and I wanted to build mine different, like I was like, I don't want to build my business this way. I'm missing out on so much of my kids' lives. And we were scaling really fast. And I know that there's some of the attendees here that have felt this way before, where it's like your business is growing faster than you can keep up with. And so you're just kind of trying to keep up. But I would go to these networking events and people would be like, oh my gosh, like we had like 14 weddings this weekend. And I mean, I haven't slept in 3 days. And I would kind of be like, yeah, I know, man, it's so tough. But here I was, like, I had a team that was doing the weddings and I was really overseeing it. And I thought, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do I feel like I have to lie? Like, why do I feel like I have to say that I'm so stressed out and overtired too? And I started to realize that the wedding industry glorifies that. Like, to be successful, you have to be exhausted all the time. You have to work 80 hours a week. You have to work every weekend. And to me, I was like, I don't want that. Like, if that's what it is, then I don't want it. And I think what we do a lot of times is that you said this exactly at the end of what you just said, is that we build a job instead of a business. And what made me really, when I started when I started deciding what I wanted to coach on, I got into education a little bit by accident, but I was like, what do I actually want to teach people? And I was like, this is it. Like, I want to teach people that you can have an incredible business in the wedding industry that brings joy to your life instead of at the destruction of your life. I mean, the wedding industry is tough. I'm not going to take that away, right? It's a hard industry to be in, but you can build a sustainable business that actually pays you a salary, that actually gives you freedom, that you love being part of. And so I get really, really excited to show people that that's possible.
I love it. I love how passionate you are about it. Like you've lived it, you've changed
Yes.
your life for the better.
Mhm.
And so it's like such a help for everybody to hear that, it's not just this person saying, you can do it. It's like, I
Right.
have done this. Let me teach you how. So like,
Yeah.
say someone is in what your shoes were, like being overworked or like feeling like they have to be busy all the time, what would you suggest they do just to start kind
Mhm.
of moving in the right direction?
Yeah, it's honestly 100% it is your mindset. There is not a practical application that I can give you if you don't believe that you can do it. And that sounds so woo-woo because it's so funny. When people come into my program, the very first video they get is me saying, like, please don't skip the mindset stuff. Because for the last 15 years, I've always skipped the mindset stuff because it's so woo and it's so silly, but it's really not. You have to understand that the only way to build a business, and there is a very significant difference between a business and a job, right? Or a business and a hobby. If you're not getting paid from your business, it's not a business. That's like red flag number one. If you're not getting paid from your business, it's not a business, it's a hobby. Businesses make you money, hobbies cost you money. It I want you to really, really think, can I think about my business differently? What do I want from my business? What do I want from my life? Who are the resources that I currently have, or what resources do I currently have that I can use to scale my business? Am I willing to think about running my business differently? And it's so interesting. I just had a coaching call yesterday with one of my students who's been in my program, I don't know, maybe 7 months. And all she kept talking about was like, when I first came in, I kept saying, she doesn't understand my business. There's no way I can do this. There's no way I can do this. There's no way I can do this. And she was by herself running a million miles an hour. She has two small kids. She was like, I cry all the time because I miss so much of their lives. She's going into 2024 with 2 employees. She will do more than double the number of weddings that she had this year, but she won't be doing them. So she's doing like 6, I think. And I just kept sitting there on the coaching call yesterday, just like, this is why I do what I do. Like, this is it, because she now has the ability to be home with her kids and to make careers for other people that want to be part of this industry, and to grow additional revenue streams and have white space to actually be creative and to think outside of just client work all the time. And so now she has this amazing business that she's continuing to scale, and a life that she genuinely loves, and a great salary from it. And she's taking less weddings. So
I
it's so
love it.
cool.
And I don't want anyone to get like nervous about, starting or anything like that. I think it's really kind of baby steps. As you know,
Mm,
Brandee, I was a part of a wedding planning company. I still am at a very high level, but
yes.
I'm doing as much planning, sadly. But I started it myself. I grew it to it's a substantial team. There's about 30 planners now.
It's
But
crazy.
I was that person that was always tired, always, exhausted and
Yeah.
proud of it. Like I was proud of it.
Yeah.
And so I slowly started building a team, and building a team is not for everybody. So that's not
Hmm.
the only way out of this. I just want to make sure that that's super clear too. But um, I started not working every weekend. And I remember
Yeah.
like my aha moment was my husband and I were out with friends on a Saturday, like on their boat on this like fancy lake. And he was like, how many weddings do you have today? And I was like, I don't know. And I
And you're
checked,
like,
and there were 3 weddings happening at that very moment. I was obviously making money from them as the
hey.
business owner. There was no
Hmm.
stress because of how it was built. And
Hmm.
like that's possible for everybody. And obviously not that exact situation, but
Hmm.
um, it's there.
That's
You
a
might feel like,
100%.
yeah, you might feel
Go.
like you're just in it so deep and there's no way to
Yes.
get out of what you're doing. But truly, baby steps will get you there. And Brandee can tell you all about that more than I can.
Well, I mean, same thing. I mean, like I'm very much still involved in my business, but when there's customer challenges or when we have a new staff that's starting or we need to, like, I don't do any of that anymore. And that is the way that you start to build a business where I can tell you right now, there's no way I could be as involved with my students and having an education platform to impact even more people if I was still knee deep in client work over at Blush. And so the cool thing about it is with my students getting, once they kind of get out of that day to day, is taking them to that next level and saying, okay, well, now what do you want from your business? Do you want an additional market? Do you want to open another market? That's going to take your attention. So let's go do that. Do you want to start speaking? Do you want to be an educator? Do you want to start doing corporate events or open a rentals market or, whatever it is? But now you have the creative space to think about what that growth plan can be, which makes me so excited for them.
I love it. I love it. Okay, switching gears. You have
Okay.
been pretty outspoken about the engagement gap. So can you explain what it is to everybody?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, if you have never heard me speak before or been on my Instagram, I am a data junkie. So everything I do is backed by numbers, everything. I think we work in a really emotional industry. So I'm like, listen, I don't need emotion. I need numbers. Like, tell me the facts, right?
I love it.
So the facts are that Signet Jewelers is a massive jewelry company, right? Massive. They own many of the jewelry companies that you may know better. And they came out with a study that they've been tracking for decades and decades, 45 data points on the dating cycle of people, of humans, right? And the reason they do this is because, hello, they're like the largest jewelry manufacturer in the world, jewelry seller. And so they want to know, like, how many rings are we going to be selling? How many diamonds should we be prepared for, right? So they track this so that they can know and they can track the ebb and flow. Well, what they have found is that the average couple dates for 3.25 years. And so I don't know about you guys, but 3.25 years ago, I can guess what most of us were doing, which was sheltering in place, not going out. We were not going to bars, we were not going to concerts. So people weren't meeting, and even people that were in fresh relationships certainly weren't able to continue dating. They weren't meeting parents and all these different kinds of things. And so what we're feeling here in 2023 is the gap in engagements because 3 years ago, people weren't meeting and dating. And so we're feeling that gap. The cool thing about it is that when the world started opening back up, everybody, like singles, were ready to mingle. Okay. And so they were meeting, they were on the dating apps, all the things. And so Signet is actually expecting or predicting a pop in engagements in 2024. And that really depends on what state you're in. So I'm in Florida. I think everybody knows Florida was closed for a hot blink of a minute. And so we have already started to feel this. And it's been really interesting to watch it. I love that I'm also still a wedding pro, very involved in my business, because when we're predicting these things, I can feel them with you. I can track them with you and say, yes, this is happening, or no, this isn't really happening. And with the hundreds of students that I get to work with, I can pull them. And so we're definitely feeling it. If you're in a state like California or New York, you may not feel this quite yet. You might not feel this pop yet, but it's coming. So the engagement gap is the gap in time where we have very few engagements because of the lack of dating that was able to happen 3 years ago.
Got it.
And my series.
Okay, well, it's almost engagement season or traditional engagement season. So, like, what are some strategies that pros should be thinking about with this wedding gap in mind?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I've been talking all year this year. 2023 has been kind of a tough year, I think, for a lot of wedding pros, because in 2022, there were more weddings than we could handle, right? Like any pro with a reasonably decent Instagram could book weddings because there were so many weddings happening. And so people were just booking. They weren't even taking time. Now this year, you're starting to see clients take longer to sign their contracts. They're interviewing more people. They have time. That's starting to close though. I'm starting to hear couples say like, oh my gosh, everybody's already booked for my date. And I'm like, yeah, get on it. Let's go. But what happened really in 2023 is that we separated the good from the great. And I've said all year, I'm like, it will be tough to make it through 2023 as it was in 2020, right? Because so the market was just flooded with anybody with a camera, anybody that planned their sorority party with a wedding planner. And so what happens here in 2023 is that you had to really be great. Like you had to be able to get those clients, to be able to get them to sign the contracts. You had to really be great at what you do. And so going into 2024, I think that's just going to continue. We've separated. Some people have fallen off. They've fallen out of the industry because they just simply weren't here to really have to grind it out. They were just kind of taking, like the real estate market happens too. When there's pop in real estate, it's like everybody's a realtor. So what we're going to see in 2024 is that these great wedding pros who are still here, there's so many of us that know that we can service our clients well. Now what you're going to need to do is differentiate yourself from the rest, right? Like why are you unique? And so I'm really encouraging wedding pros to lean into your social media, lean into your website copy, really lean into a great sales funnel. Because when I see Instagram profiles that are like, now booking 24 and 25, we'll make sure all your flawless details or all your details are flawless. I'm like, well, what wedding planner wouldn't do that? Like that,
Right.
how does that make you different? And so you want to really go through your own marketing and you want to think, am I vanilla? Like what makes me different? What makes me stand out? Who do I serve? And what are their pain points? And when I say that, I want you to really be careful about not thinking, my ideal client is Susan and she's 34 and drinks a mocha latte. Like no one cares about that. That's not helping you. But what I do want you to think about is, are your clients budget conscious? Are they destination? Are a lot of them destination? Do you work with a lot of career oriented people? They might be strapped for time. And what are those pain points that they have and what they're looking for? And then make your marketing speak directly to those pain points, because that's what's going to make them come across your Instagram profile or your website and go, oh my gosh, like I have to learn about this person. They're amazing. And so you really want to be thinking about who it is that you serve and what their pain points are, and you want to market directly to them.
Okay, I'm going to go off script and ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So social media is like a bevy of different platforms. So
yeah,
I don't think you can excel at all of them all at once. That's my personal opinion. So if somebody were only to focus on maybe one, maybe two platforms, what are your top recommendations?
It's so funny. I literally just recorded a podcast episode about this because I was like, listen, one thing you can never wonder about me is if I have an opinion. I have an opinion always. And so my opinion on this is that you need to be on Instagram. If you are only going to choose one platform, you need to be on Instagram. And the reason that I say that is backed by, again, a lot of data. But Instagram, not only do we know that our engaged couples are there, Instagram's now created a way for couples to make boards. They can save boards just like you do on Pinterest inside of Instagram. So they can get inspiration there and create vision boards. They can communicate directly with you so you can have a warm conversation right there on Instagram. They can shop with you. They can link to your items right there. They can learn more about you in so many different ways. I mean, Instagram is 3 platforms in one, or probably more like 10 platforms in one, but there's video, there's still, there's stories, there's reels. There's so many ways to connect with people there that it's just, it is the one platform that you must be on. And I would even tell you, I get this a lot from clients, and this was me probably 5 years ago, honestly, but I get referred so much that I don't really need to be on social media. And listen, I was totally that person. I was like, 90% of our business comes from referrals. I could care less about social media. And we would have an intern do it and just like post something here and there. That is false information. That's fake news, because you must be on there. I've had couples actually say to me, that they were referred to my company, and they were probably referred to 3 or 4 companies, right?
Right.
By their venue,
Exactly.
maybe, or whatever. And I have had couples literally say to me, "You were the only one that had an up-to-date Instagram." And I'm like, "What?" Like all I had to do was keep it up to date, but they're doing that. What's happening is they're getting a referral from another vendor and
Yeah,
they're going to your Instagram. They want to
for
go see
sure.
who you are, what you're about, what your work is, what you do, who you serve. And then they're deciding to reach out a lot of times in Instagram. So don't ignore your DMs either. But if you have no presence there, or your presence is terrible, or you have, it's just cringy, they're not going to reach out because
Yeah.
there are so many pros that they can reach out to.
Yeah, people are so focused on like website, 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 which is absolutely important.
Sure.
But we have found through Rock Paper Coin and polling our members that many of their clients look at their Instagram before
Yeah.
their website, which isn't a surprise, but it's just a reminder that you have to
Yeah.
keep up with it. And even if you're a solopreneur and you're doing everything on your own, from marketing to doing all the planning to the janitor and everything in between, you don't have to. Like, this is something that you can outsource. There's so many great
Yes.
groups that will handle this for you with your direction and your brand voice. But it's something that you can't really ignore at this point.
You
Um,
can't ignore it. And if I can just, I know, I swear you guys, I could talk about social media until I turn purple, but really quick, just to touch on that, is that 2 things. One, social media is so much easier now than it ever was in the past, because years ago, it'd be like your grid has to be perfect. It has to match, and it has to have every square has to like go together. And who had time for that? Now you can legitimately grab your phone and just start talking to it and make a reel. And that's what people want to see. Like if you're a florist, put up your phone and just start talking as you're putting together bouquets. Or if you're a photographer, talk about the gear that you're packing up or how you're choosing the lighting or whatever. It's so much more real than it ever was, that it makes it so much easier to do it yourself. I agree, mine's outsourced, so I say that, but it is 100% easy to do it on your own. So don't be afraid of it, but no longer can you say things like social media is just not my thing.
I
It's
know.
just
I know.
finances weren't a lot of people's things either, but you have to learn that too. So, if you're going to be a business owner, you've got to learn to market your business. And that's where it happens on Instagram.
Yeah, Katie on our team runs our social media, and I can
Yeah.
guarantee right now she's just saying to herself, "I told you so," because I also don't like doing it. I don't like recording myself. I don't like speaking, but I just feel like it's not interesting. But when you do, it gets so much interest from
Yes.
people. And
Yes.
it just like adds a personality. So it's not that you have to do it
Mhm.
all the time, but it does help to have your face or your team's faces on there, just
Mhm.
like being real rather than
All
putting
the
out
time.
all your beautiful things. Because people, whether it's other vendors or potential clients, they want to see what you're all about, that you're a real person. And so
Yeah.
that kind of helps you get there.
It does. They buy from people they know, like, and trust. And even look at your own consumer habits. Like if you go through
I
all the people
know.
you follow, I guarantee you it's not a bunch of graphic, beautiful posts. I promise you it's
So
not.
true.
It is real people doing real things. I mean, Alex Earl, she's like the #1 TikToker in the world. And all she does is put her makeup on every day and tell
It's
you
crazy. It's
what kind of
crazy.
coffee she drinks. It's crazy. So
Like, if you
anyway,
would have
yeah.
told me that was a thing 20 years ago, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah. We would have all been like, that's never going to happen. And it's funny too, because I am so passionate about social media, because everything I teach is how to build a profitable business. Well, part of that is getting great marketing, right? And I talk so much about it. Y'all, I'm not even kidding you. 5 years ago, I don't even think it was that long ago. I didn't even have an Instagram account, a personal Instagram account. Blush's account was so sad. And I just didn't put that much effort into it until I started realizing like this is a massive piece of marketing our business at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So we've taken the time to build our
Okay.
marketing, our Instagram, our social media, and
Yeah.
inquiries are coming in. I think going back to what you said about 2022, it was a really
Mhm.
hard year. People were really, really busy. And I think it burnt a lot of people off that
Yeah.
they turned business away in 2023. I mean, we saw it with our own members. And so now they're like feeling refreshed and renewed, and I can take on the world, and 2024 is my year, and they're getting these new inquiries. But bookings, like you said, have been a little slower for a lot of the country, and they have found that inquiries have tried to negotiate with them. So what do you feel about inquiries negotiating? Like, how do you deal with that?
I mean, listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with people asking, like I think a lot of times we as wedding pros feel like it's a slight to our service or who we are as an artiste. If someone asks us, either what our pricing is or if we're willing to give a discount, I don't think there's anything wrong with them asking. I also don't think there's anything wrong with you saying no and, explaining why your services are priced the way they are. The challenge that I think a lot of wedding pros find themselves in, and I find this with our students all the time, is that you tend to give in on the discount because you're not confident in your pricing in the first place. We come into the market and I was guilty of this too. And I think this is how everyone starts out, but you come in, you poll all the people in your market, see what their pricing is. And then you come in either just under that, so you can actually book some clients, or just around that. Right. But that only lasts for a very brief period of time. Once you start to build your business, you've got to know how many hours does it take you to service that package? How much cost do you have that goes into it? And as wedding pros, outside of really florists and stationers, a lot of us don't have a lot of hard cost that goes into it. And so it's just like, oh, it's just my time. Oh, it's just my time. The challenge with that is that if you don't understand how many hours it takes you to service a package, you will set a goal that's unattainable revenue wise, right? So let's just say you want to hit 100,000, but you're not charging nearly enough. You don't have enough hours in a year to even make 100,000 because you aren't charging enough per hour, and you don't know that. And so what happens is at the end of the year, or at the end of every month, you're like, how is there never enough money in the bank account? I literally work 80 hours a week. Yeah. And the answer is because your packages weren't priced right in the first place. And so what I say to the discounting is, you as a wedding planner or a wedding pro have to understand what your pricing is and why you charge it, because I promise you, you will be so much more confident when you get asked those questions to explain why your service is charged the way that it is, and be confident if they walk away. But usually when you can come back with a great answer and they can understand what the value of your service is, they sign right away because your confidence is there,
Yeah, totally. And the piece of that, like, it's just my time. It's not just your time, because you're probably on G Suite. Software costs money, Timeline Genius, Miri, you're paying subscriptions there, which are absolutely worth it, but that is a cost. You're probably also sending some sort of gift to your client or to vendors that you're working with. Like, there are so many costs that pros don't necessarily think about. And that is something that has to be worked out super early. And pricing can change, like you said, all because you set something when you started or every year. Who says you can't change your pricing multiple times a year? It's up to you. It's your business.
All the time.
So if
you can
costs
change it.
go up, your pricing should go up too. And you shouldn't feel bad about it at all.
Yeah, I find it really, really interesting, especially right now. I see so many wedding pros asking in different forums and things like that. Should I lower my pricing to book more weddings because weddings are slow right now? And I'm like, well, there's so much that has to go into that answer. I mean, do you know what your costs are? Do you know how many hours you're putting into it? But also, I would strongly hesitate. I mean, every single thing that you could possibly purchase in all of the land is at least 20% more expensive than it was this time last year. So I would have a really hard time understanding how you would still pay your bills if you lowered your pricing. But we don't take all of that into account because we're just kind of like, I just need to book. Another thing that I see a lot, Nora, and it makes me so sad when wedding pros will think, okay, well, I'm going to book my highest tier package. And it's like, oh, because it's $5,000 or it's $7,000. And that's a whole chunk of change coming in. What they don't realize is that there's so many more hours that go into it, so much more cost that goes into it. They're actually making way more money on their lowest tier package. But they don't know that. And so they don't want to book it. They're like, oh, but I get $5,000, $7,000 here. I'm like, yeah, but you're only making like $200 off of that package at the end of it. That's why you have no money. And so my role in this industry is to really help people to take control of their finances and to understand it from a perspective that's not how your CPA understands it. Like, I don't understand the CPA stuff, but I want you to understand your numbers from a business owner's perspective. Like, there's certain key numbers that you have to know in your business to make sure that it's healthy and to be able to scale and grow and to pay yourself. And that's really the most important thing, is that you're paying yourself from your business every year.
For sure. Otherwise, what's the point? Sure, it's fun, but lots of things are fun.
Well, it's not that fun if you're working 80 hours a week and not making any money. I mean, it might be fun for a few minutes, but then you think to yourself, like, it's so funny because so many of us start our businesses and we say, oh, I'm quitting my 9 to 5 because I want to be my own boss and I choose my own clients. I want to have my own flexible schedule. I don't know a single wedding pro in the whole world that is all of a sudden like rolling in dollar bills
Right.
and, working an hour a week. It's just not happening. Most of the time we all run our businesses. We're like, I haven't slept in 6 days and I haven't paid myself in a decade. And you're like, what? Why?
Why?
And that's where it's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, going back to that,
Okay.
the negotiation piece, another way to think about it is I find that clients respect you more when you say no,
100%.
whether it's the price or something on your contract. Some things can be tweaked a little bit, but if it's in like indemnification or something that they're asking for,
Right.
saying no, you're going to have their respect from the beginning. And if they're not okay with it, then they're
not
right
your client.
fit anyway. So, there are always times that might make sense to negotiate.
Of
Maybe
course.
it's like a teeny tiny wedding and it's going to take a fraction of your time, or, at Bridal Bliss, we always do like military discounts just as a small way to say thank you, like little things like that. So that's fine. But you should, like you said, Brandee, at no point should you be losing money or making pennies on the dollar for the work that you're doing.
Yeah. And you made a good point, Nora, because people think when we say don't discount, that means like you can never discount, like you have to leave it. It's not that you can't discount, but there has to be a reason behind it. Like, right. Okay, well, we're going to take this out of the package, or it's a date in low season that you have historically never booked. Great. Like, as long as you have a reason to do it. But if you're just doing it because the client asked you and you're afraid you're going to lose the client, you don't know how much your packages cost you anyway, so sure, I might as well just discount it. That's not a good reason,
Yeah. And it's normal to be worried about bookings. We all live off bookings, right? And so it used to be like every November in the Pacific Northwest is slow season.
Okay.
And we'd always kind of be like biting our fingernails. How's next year going to be? And every year it would fill up to the point that we had to turn things away. So you just have to like trust in your processes, that you're constantly reevaluating things, making sure you're staying in the know so you can make those business decisions that will keep you busy.
And to that point too, I always go back to the data. Like, there's not a single student in my program that comes to a call and asks me a question without a spreadsheet. Cause I'm like, where's your financial services spreadsheet? Cause we're not making a gut decision here. Like, you have to make a factual decision. First thing I have people do is go through your sales history. What have you historically sold in every single month? What have you historically put in the bank every single month? Because it helps you to make those decisions, to be able to say, every November I'm freaking out because I don't think we're going to fill up. But the last 3 Novembers, I had 10 weddings, and then I had 12 weddings, and then I had 16 weddings on the book. So why would I think I wouldn't get the trend is I'm going to. And so then you can make those fact-based decisions instead of every month just hoping enough money comes in. And Lord knows I lived enough years of my business just going, I hope enough money comes in this month, and that's a terrible way to run a business. You can't grow, you can't forecast. And so I get really, really excited about helping people to understand that about their business and to be able to base those decisions based on those facts, those numbers that they have.
Yeah. I mean, the peace of mind of just knowing it and knowing your numbers it's priceless. And like, you have it all at your fingertips. You just have to take the time to do it. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but systems to run a successful business, whether it's big or small, you need systems in place. So now that engagement season is upon us and weddings are starting to wind down, what are some things that you suggest pros do to ensure they have their different systems in place?
Yeah. So the biggest things that I would tell you that I would love for you to be focused on right now, what we're talking all about in my programs, is you need to be sales focused. 100% of your attention should be on making sure that you can close clients, right? And the reason for that is a lot of times people at the end of the year, you've got maybe a little bit of extra money, or you're just getting excited about next year. And so you're like, I think I'll redo my website. And I'm like, no, not right now. You've got people flooding to your website. We don't need to be in a redo right now. You need to really be thinking about focusing forward. If there's things on your website that you don't love, going in and making some tweaks, making sure that you've gone through your own sales funnel. What does it look like to go to your Instagram, to click your link in bio? Can you find a link for your consultation? Y'all, number one, anytime anyone DMs me ever, just so you guys know, if you ever DM me, the very first thing I will do is go to your profile. One, try to find your name. It's shocking how hard I can't find anyone's name anywhere ever. And because I want to call you by your name. But two, I also look and see if I wanted to book a consult with this person, could I figure out how to do it? So it shouldn't be that difficult, right? So it's like link in bio. Make sure you can click your link in bio. And do you have a link directly to your contact us page, directly to your Calendly link, or whatever it is that you use to book consults? People will drop them off in the middle of their homepage. And it's like, no, I don't want to have to keep clicking buttons. Send me directly to the consultation page. I want to work with you. I know that much, right? Go through the consultation, book a consultation with yourself. Do you have enough time slots open? Do you look too wide open, right? Like, let's not make them think you have no business. So make sure you go through your consultation page, book a consultation with yourself. What emails do you get after? What does that look like? So, right, you've come through this funnel. Then go through your website, click the contact us page. How hard is it to fill it out? Does it take you too long? Are you getting frustrated? I was on a Wedding Pros page the other day, their contact us page, and I couldn't tab to go to the next section, which is such a silly thing, but it's like, that's an easy fix, right? Like, that's a totally easy fix. And so we were able to fix that really fast. Go through your sales process. Then I really want you to think about, okay, now that's my forward facing. Once someone inquires, what are the steps? What happens in my business? Do you respond personally? Do they get an automated email? I'm a massive fan of at least one automated email. Every lead form in all of creation at this point will let you send at least one automated email once that lead goes out. That email should not say, thank you for your inquiry. We'll follow up in 24 to 48 hours. That is the biggest waste of an email in someone's inbox ever. Like, give them value, give them something that they want to look at, right? They're probably wanting to know your pricing. They're probably wanting to know a little bit more about you. They're probably wanting to maybe book a consult. Put those things in there, an FAQ, a price list, a way to book a consult with you, then follow up personally, right? So that's what I really want everyone to be doing right now, because no matter what market you're in, like, it's high season for me. I'm listening to Nora say, like, oh, we're in slow season. I'm like, it is chaos over here for the next 12 weeks. But we also have to be focused on engagement season at the same time. And so no matter what market you're in, we're all going into engagement season. So that sales focused mentality, check your funnel, and then really think about, what is it that happens once an inquiry books with me, once I book a consult, right? I do a whole training, and I think Nora has the link for this. I was going to give you guys the free training at the end. Yes. So I do a whole training on how to see where your sales funnel breaks down. And it's so interesting because when wedding pros look and see, oh, I just don't have enough business, so I must not have enough leads. So often what we figure out is there's actually a hole in their sales funnel, and it's real easy to figure it out. The cool thing is that once you can plug all of the holes in your sales funnel, y'all, all you have to do is pour gas on your fire at the front of it on your marketing and just watch them flow. Like, you just watch them flow. But the problem is, a lot of us just start pouring fuel on our fire of marketing. People are dripping out at step one because we have a giant gaping hole in our sales funnel. So I do a whole training on that. And I really encourage you to just make sure your sales funnel is squeaky clean, no leaks, and then start back over with your marketing and just be ready. Be ready for the sales to come in, because they're coming, which is so exciting.
You have to make it easy, like you said. So responding quickly, like getting that email that says someone will respond in 24 to 48 hours. Are you kidding
That's so
me? That
irritating.
person has already contacted somebody else that not only responded, but had a consult with them and booked them before you responded in 48 hours. So
Yes.
that is like not going to fly in this day and age.
No, and the reason I encourage that first automated email is because 9 times out of 10, they had a simple question, right? And so it's like if you can send them an FAQ, a price list, and a link to book a consult, before you can even get to the personal email, they've already booked a consult. That happens to us all the time because they got the information they needed, then they go ahead and book a consult. What I would tell you is if they haven't booked a consult, let's say you get an inquiry, you're out at a meeting, right? You know, they got your amazing first email, and then they still haven't booked a consult by the time you get back to your desk. Great. We ask on our consult form or our contact us form, can we text you? 99% of them say yes. So we shoot off a quick text from our lead phone. So it's none of our personal cell phones, but it says, hey, Zoe, we saw that you sent an inquiry in earlier today. Are there any questions I can answer for you right now? Y'all, I cannot tell you the number of leads we booked via text. It's shocking because they're like, oh, I really just wanted to know if you've worked at my venue, or I really just wanted to know, I don't know, something, if you're available. And you're like, yes, we are. And they're like, great. My sister used you 6 years ago. Can I just book you? Yes, you can. We'll send you a contract. So it's about just making sure that they're getting the information they need quickly. Still being personal. Your automations don't take the place of you being a human.
Right.
They just add to that experience. So yeah.
And couples expect automation today. They have
Oh,
automation
for
in
sure.
all facets of their life. So
Yeah.
don't worry about like taking away that personal aspect with automation.
Yeah.
If you're automating everything, then that's a problem. But just making your life and their life easier here and there with automation is going to make all the difference.
100%.
So I have to give a rock, paper, coin plug because that is part
Yeah.
of what we do. We make the booking process easier. So we really focus on proposals, contracts, invoices, shared documents. If something is due, you'll get an automated reminder. Your client will. They can pay or sign on the go. And we have the lowest processing fee for vendors. It's only 2.5%.
That's amazing.
So feel free. We'll post links after this. If anyone is interested in checking it out that's not already a member, sign up with code RPC NORA, NORA, and you'll get a free year. Okay, that's my only plug.
That's amazing.
Now we're back
That's
to
amazing.
regularly programmed.
I love it.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions coming in, so keep them coming. We're just gonna have one more question for Brandee and then we'll get to them. Okay, 2024 is almost here. It's wild. It's like wild to me, but that's time to set goals, right? How do you recommend that pros set goals or even start the process, and tips for, growing your business and your revenue for next year?
Yes. Okay. So a lot of it starts with the data, right? And so pulling all of that data. My podcast that comes out next week actually is all about how to create your budget. I have several TikToks on it as well. If you pop over to my TikTok, I'm at Brandee Gaar over there, on how to create your budget, because it's that time. I create budgets with my students in August and September, and then all fourth quarter, I'm talking about how to create your budget because it's so important. It's the crux of every decision you will make in the rest of your business. Nora, I didn't give you this link, but if anybody wants my spreadsheet that I use for myself and all of my students, it's just brandeegaar.com/budget. It's free. You can go grab it. It makes it really easy for you to create your own budget. But what it is it's walking you through, okay, first tab one, I need to get all of my expenses in order, right? Like even if they're $1, you're going back through every credit card statement, every debit card statement for the whole year, and you're making sure that you've got all of those expenses. Then you're going to tab two and you're pulling all of your sales history and your cash in bank history. And this is where everybody's eyes start to open. But guys, this is where the magic happens, because you can start to look, and I love pushing a wedding pro, and they'll say like, yeah, so I set my goal for next year at 86,000. And I'm like, but it says here you did 84,000 last year. They're like, I did. I'm like, that's not a goal. Like that's literally like no growth. And I'm like, but why, and so we start looking back at their history. Why do you feel like you can't do more? Your history shows you can. And so pushing you to really reach for those goals based on your history, not based on a gut feeling. So I would highly encourage you to download that. It's free. And then to start working on your budget. Go check out some of those TikToks. I walk you through how to do it. And then from there, I think a lot of your goals are based on that budget, right? So it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to double my revenue next year, which by the way is 1000% attainable, no matter what you make right now. If I'm going to double my revenue next year, what do I need to do that? I need another staff person, right? I need another lead, whatever it is that you do, or I need to hire an administrative assistant or whatever it is to get you to those financial goals. I always work backwards from my financial goals. How do I hit these financial goals? What do I need in place to be able to do that? Do I need a business coach that can show me how to do that? Do I need a new staff person? Do whatever it is. And then those become kind of your sub goals under the financial.
Okay. That's great. And that is the perfect segue into one of our questions.
Oh, good.
Somebody asked, how do you discover what the first hire in your business should be?
Yeah. So I do an exercise. I learned this from Tony Robbins when I said I skip all the mindset stuff, and he's all mindset, but he called it a not to do list. I learned this years and years ago. And it's basically where for 2 weeks, you write down everything you do in your business, literally from like answering emails, scheduling vendors, ordering flowers, sending proposals, everything. Everything that you do for 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, you're going to look at the list and you're going to start breaking it up into buckets. So one of the buckets is going to be like, why do we do this? This is just something I've always done. It serves no purpose. It doesn't move the needle. I should just stop doing that trash. The next bucket is going to be only I can do this. Like there's no one in my business that can do this. Ever. That would be something like showing up on Reels, right? Like for me, I can't outsource that. I have to show my face, right? So that's something that I can't outsource. I can outsource scheduling it, right? And so that's what you're looking for. The last bucket is going to be what you can delegate. And so looking at all the things on your list that you can and should delegate. And so then you start looking at all those things that you do on a daily, and it'll help to shape the job description or the description of the person that you're looking for. Sometimes you look at it and you're like, all I do all day, every day is client work. So I need to get some client work off my plate. Okay. That means you probably need to hire another lead, whatever you do. Right. Sometimes you look at it and you're like, my gosh, I spend most of my time scheduling social media posts or confirming vendors or writing timelines. Okay, that would probably be an administrative person. Like, who are we looking for that? And so everybody's first hire is different. To me, it's going to be your tyranny of the urgent. What do you need today to free up some space so that you can start working on what the growth plan looks like for your business? So tyranny of the urgent. It's probably not the hire you're going to have for the rest of your life. It might be a contractor, but it's somebody to free you up so that you can start to look at your business from the top down instead of from inside it, and so that would be really, really helpful there, is to do that exercise.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think it's kind of your mind frame as well. Like, you might not have to hire somebody. I know that really stresses people out, is like having to provide for themselves and also somebody else. And so you can contract with people. You can hire a virtual assistant to do like menial tasks that for a short amount of time. So it's not like you're paying benefits and a full-time salary and all that stuff. There's also software for all of these things, like Planoly, Later. Those are great platforms for social media that will save you time and allow you to, focus on it, schedule it out, and then it's kind of done for a while.
Yep.
Also some of our favorites that I have to plug, Timeline Genius is incredible for timelines, such a time saver. And then Mary, I just actually created my first diagram on there last night, texting with Randy, and it's great. It's just small little changes will save, minutes here and there, but those minutes add up really, really quickly. So
fast.
Hiring someone full-time might be the right step for you, but it also might not. And so going through what you suggested, Brandee, where you like write down every single thing that you do, not only will it like really make it clear to you all the things you're doing, but it'll also make it clear to you, like, I dread doing this and this and this. So like, don't do them. Have somebody else do it.
Have somebody else do it.
Yeah, another place where baby steps will help you grow. My first hire was a bookkeeper, and oh my
Okay.
God, she changed my life. I hated doing my books. So I don't have
That's a
to.
smart first hire.
Yeah, so she reviews everything with me, or she did, and really changed the way I was doing it, because I was doing it in a way that was not efficient. So,
Right.
you can't be an expert at everything. You like cannot.
No, nor should
So
you be. Yeah,
knowing your strengths and weaknesses will really help you through this process. Um,
100%.
Okay, another question that's kind of related to this. Somebody said, I'm growing my team and beginning to take a step back to focus on training and education for the team, which is so smart.
So
She's
exciting.
managing from a higher level and growing the business strategically. So what tips do you have for someone that is building the plane as they fly it? I like
Okay, so we are all doing that all the time, just so you know. Like there's none of us that are like, yeah, I totally mastered this. And so, we're all building the plane as we fly it. And what I would recommend is one, give yourself some grace. Like a lot of times we think, oh, I can't step out of this role or I can't delegate this because I don't have all the SOPs. I don't have all the processes. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to. I tell a lot of my students, have your new hire document what you're telling them, right? So that's an option too, is to just, I would say, constantly, since you're already kind of taking those steps to step above your business, what I would say really the biggest thing that you can be doing in the stage that you're in is to build a strategic team. So you have team members, right? I so vividly remember this place in my business. I had a large team, but none of them had autonomy to do their job without some piece of it falling back on me. Either I had to do it, so I was always the holdup, or they had to get my answer on something, some part of their process. And so, what I would encourage you to do when you're stepping into that CEO role is really define well what each person's role is on the team and how much else you can get off of your plate. So, for instance, one of the things I delegated was scheduling of all of our staff. Like, I stopped having to worry about, do we have enough assistants? Do we have enough lead planners? No, I don't need to worry about that anymore. I can delegate that to my operations person. Delegating out your training of new hires. The further away you get from doing events yourself, the harder it is for you to train a new hire anyway. So really, you become a coach. So I call my full-timers my executive team, and they're the people who've taken over almost all of my roles in the business. There's 3 of them. They each have their role in the business. And then under them are our part-time staff that they pour into. And so my job is to really just pour into that team that's making it happen and to make sure they have full autonomy to do their job well. And they'll make mistakes, but you can correct the thought process after. They're not going to burn your business down. That's not going to happen. But, they're going to make some mistakes here and there. So I would just encourage you to really, really be strategic, understand your role as the coach. Do not get back into the messy day to day. Keep slowly removing yourself from it. But that's like the most exciting stage. When I meet a pro who's in that stage, it's like, oh my goodness, it's so exciting. It's such an exciting time in your business.
I love it. I love it. While you were chatting, I was looking through email to try to find, there's this great platform, and I'll post it later. It makes creating SOPs super, super easy, where it'll take screen grabs and allow you to like record video and everything with it. So that's something,
Yeah.
I'll post that later. And then another suggestion is to look up a gal named Ashley Ebert.
Yes.
Her company is called the Abundance Group, and this is what she does: is she trains
Yeah.
people to build their teams. So like, you don't have to start from scratch and do this all
Right.
yourself. And maybe not everything that you learn from her will apply, but I can guarantee
Yeah.
you a lot will. So check her
Yep.
out. I think she would be a big
Ashley's
help
awesome.
to you. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, more questions. We'll go
Okay.
right to the last minute.
Let's do it.
Somebody said the daily grind is the worst. Tips on how to free yourself from it.
Hire a team. I mean, Nora said in the beginning, not everybody has to build a team. That's not the only way to build your business. I 100% agree. But if you don't want to build a team, I am not the right coach for you. Like, that is the way. to scale out of the messy middle. And I, we've all been there. I can like feel the feelings I still that I would have during that time where it was just like, I can't hire because I don't have time to think about who I would hire or how I would train them or what they would do for, like, I just can't. And it's the difference is that you can stay stuck where you are forever. Every year you can say the same thing and say, gosh, I just don't know how to get out of this messy middle. Or you can take action and say, I'm going to get out of it. And what I always tell my students when they first come into my programs too is like, you will never work harder in your business than you will over the next 18 months. Like, it is the hardest time in your business because you're so drowning in client work and daily grind and all the things. And then you have to try to hire and mentor and coach and like do all, and it's like you're drowning and someone hands you a baby and you're like, what? And so it's really, really challenging. But the difference is that now there's a light at the end of it because you're working towards a different life versus every year just saying, I just don't have the time this year. I just don't have the time this year. You'll never have the time. You will never have the time. We make time for the things that are a priority. And if you want your life back, you want to get out of the daily grind. I mean, I've literally had hundreds of students that I've done it with. You just have to make the decision you're going to do it.
Yeah. And I think just it can be as simple as time blocking. So set 2 days next week or whatever, whenever you don't have meetings, you take those full 2 days to start the process, because unless you schedule it or unless you make time for it, you're not going to have time for it. It's easy to put on the back burner. So I think that's a good way to start. Okay. That website, Elizabeth texted me, it's called Scribe, SCRIB.
Oh, yes.
To help you create SOPs. So check that one out.
Yes.
Okay, last question. This is a hot topic. I have my opinions. I want to hear yours.
I'm afraid.
Asked, flat fee, percentage of event cost, or hybrid? Do tell.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, I have many pieces of content on this because you're right. It is like the hottest topic in the market. I personally do a hybrid model. It's what works for us. It's what feels good to us. And I think you should do whatever feels, not just feels good, but like what feels ethical to you. And I don't think any of it's unethical at all. But to me, I had a hard time answering the questions of like, well, if I decide to do, a call bar instead of a well bar, why do you make more money? And I would just be like, So, those are the questions that I didn't feel good about. I was like, yeah, who cares if they have filet versus chicken? That doesn't affect me. But there are pros who feel very, very confident in a fully percentage-based pricing. My personal opinion is start it and just start it. The way I started was because I had so many educators that were like, you've got to go to percentage-based. We totally got handed a goose egg with a wedding who it wasn't their fault. We charged flat fee. The wedding completely changed. It was awful. And it wasn't their fault. It was our fault because we didn't price ourselves correctly. If I would have done percentage-based pricing, I would have had that in there. So the way that we do it now is we charge a flat fee, which is our minimum. And we're like, this is your fee based on what you've told us so far. And we make that fee set on based on what they've described their wedding to be today, right? And we put a budget in there. So we'll say, based on the vision that you've casted for us today, we expect that your budget will be 150,000. Our fee is X. Should your budget go over 170,000, so we'll give them a little bit of a buffer, the scope of the event will have changed. And so we would now get a percentage of that. We put that right in the contract. It just is an insurance policy for me. It's more like, hey, if the scope of the event changes, we're going to be able to add the labor. We're going to be able to be compensated for our time to be able to execute such an event. And so here's how much that's going to cost. And we've never gotten pushback on that. People are like, oh, I like that. And I'm like, great. Done. Yeah. So it has to feel good to you.
I like it. I like that you're doing percentage, period. When I started Bridal Bliss 2002, like a very different market than it was now.
It wasn't a thing.
We had flat fees for up until probably, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe. We
Yeah.
had different package levels, and our full kind of luxury experience was a flat fee that we kind of based on that first consultation. But as you know, things change really, really quickly.
Oh yeah.
And, we had a wedding that was supposed to be a $300,000 budget. At the end, it was $1.5 million. It was all in 3 months. It was insane. But our team was overworked and underpaid. And,
Oh,
that is when we kind of started to make the change. But my team was adamantly against it. And this is before rock, paper, coin, when I was
really?
full-time wedding planning. My team did not want to do it. They're like, our clients are not going to trust us if we make more money, if they spend more
Oh,
money.
yeah.
And then I got this inquiry, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pitch it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it was like, no questions asked. Where do I sign? And that planner made probably 4 times as much as she would have.
Wow.
Otherwise, the team got wind of it, and now we're full percentage and working less and making more. And it's been a
Right?
complete game changer. And we're one of the only ones in our market that do it. Our
Wow.
bookings are lower, they're
Yeah.
lower than they were in
But
years
you're doing
past,
bigger
but
weddings.
it doesn't matter. We're making more money, and
Right.
you're able to do more with that. The planners aren't flustered. They're not stressed. They're
Yes.
able to enjoy their summer, which is our busy season,
Yeah.
while they're working. So, that's just,
And
Bridal Bliss's story and your story. Every
yeah.
company is different. Every market is different. So there's not like one perfect answer, but I am a huge proponent
Yeah.
of percentage.
Well, and like you said, you're like, we work less, but we make more. And I'm like, well, like that's the dream. I think
Sounds
that's
like a
the
win.
dream, I mean, I'm like, that's pretty much what everybody should be striving for. I will say there's 2 episodes on my podcast. I was just going back to look up what the episode numbers were specifically on percentage-based pricing. Episode 77, if you want to go listen to that, it's the Wedding Pro CEO podcast. Episode 77, I had Rebecca Rose on, and she is like,
Yeah.
percentage based, like you have to charge percentage based. And so she was just talking about kind of the why you would want to do it, kind of like Nora just said, exactly, like this is why, because we're being compensated for the work we're doing. And then in episode 162, I actually have one of my students on. She does an excellent job at percentage-based pricing, but she was newer to it. And so she was able to walk us through how she implemented it, like what the first way she did it, then she switched to this, and then she switched to this. So if you're just starting to want to understand how to do it, I would do episode 162. And Nicole talks about how she implemented it and how you can baby step into it, which was really interesting to me.
Yeah. So helpful. Yeah. And there's nothing
Yeah.
that says you have to stick with it. Give it a try.
No,
It doesn't
try
work.
it.
It doesn't work, or, vice
Yeah.
versa.
Change it
So
up.
anyway,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, so many good nuggets today. Thank you so
Yay.
much for bringing us this incredible session.
Yay. This was fun.
And big thank you to everyone that joined us today and registered. Like I said, we will share Brandee's links with you, and her training, a link to her free training that she's doing on how to double your revenue in 2024, which sounds like a no-brainer.
It's so easy, you guys. Like, it's not easy, but it's easy. Like, once you put the steps in place, it's so very easy to do it. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. So sign up for that. Follow us on Instagram. Thank you for joining us for Money Talks. Next month, we have Peyton Frank, an incredible filmmaker. So stay tuned for that. And Brandee, thank you so much. I'll see you at Wedding MBA.
Yes, yes. And you guys feel free to DM me on Instagram. I love DMs. I love them. So if you had a question you didn't get answered, or you wanted to ask more about something, feel free to DM me over there. So fun.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Bye.